It's me again. Hello everyone. How are you? I hope you're well. This is a continuation of the same day, the same really hot, sweaty day when I was showing you a quick look at, well, it wasn't a quick look in the end, was it? It was a long look around the garden to show you where I had managed to get to in the space of a week. Good, we're all up to date. So now let us progress a little. So today it's all about the sowing. It's going to be a mammoth sowing day with beans. Oh, you know, when I talk about beans, I'm kind of talking about legumes as well. So I'm doing chickpeas and lentils today, as well as my beans. I'm basically doing a whole lot of my protein today. As a vegetarian, it's a really, really important part of my diet, all my beans and legumes, combined with a bit of rice, a bit of grains. Then you get your complete chain of amino acids, which is that's how we build everything in our bodies. So yes, really important part of my diet. And just to say here, because I've talked about it a little bit on my Facebook page, but I know there's a load of you who don't do Facebook, I aim to have about 300 bean plants each year. I'd never really reckoned it up, you know, worked it out exactly. But Erica from Erica's Little Welsh Garden, hey Erica, she was asking me the other day, because she's striving towards self-sufficiency for her family, and I think she's got a vegetarian and a vegan in her family. So I initially thought, oh, it's probably about 100. Worked it out, it's 300. Now, obviously, I eat them most days. I would say probably at least 5 days out of 7. Some of those meals, there's a lot of beans in one meal. Some of my meals, it might be, let's think in terms of, say, a tin of beans that you buy, like, you buy a tin of kidney beans or a tin of cannellini. Those will go into a recipe that's then 4 meals. So it's not like I eat a full tin of beans every day. But yes, over the years I've grown more and more, partly because they're easy to grow if you can get them past the slug stage. They're fairly low maintenance, and because I grow so many for drying, actually I can just leave them leave them be. The ones that I grow to harvest and freeze demi-sec, you always hear me talking about this demi-sec thing. These are the beans I grow for the bean rather than the pod, and it's quite a narrow window to catch it, but it's at that point when the beans are at their absolute fattest in the pods, and just before that pod starts to dry out. So when they're at that stage, I pick them and I chuck them in the freezer. I don't even blanch them, just chuck them in the freezer. Gorgeous. So yes, those 300, that's across climbing and bush varieties. So the climbers, I would say I probably try to have about 100 plants, and the vast majority of those, that's about storage for autumn, winter, spring and the early summer. Of the bush varieties, there's about 200, including the broad beans. I certainly haven't got 200 broad beans this year, but some of those, say the rockencore, the Burdu rockencore, that's for eating fresh through the summer. So I have 2 main ones for eating fresh: Burdu rockencore, one of my bush types, and my Helder, which is a climbing bean, which is somewhere between a runner bean and a French bean. It's a flat pod, it's stringless. I hate strings. So those 2, between them, they keep me going from, oh gosh, it's going to be a bit different this year because I'm sowing later, but normally they would keep me going from, say, July. They do July, August, September fresh, and then from October right around to June the following year, I use all my stored produce. So yes, it's a beanie protein day, but I'm also going to be doing a load of my salad leaves, my beetroot, my chard, my fennel, And I've just been given, I'm loving it this year, I mean look, I've gone on about it loads, I know, but it's really, really important to me. This site that I'm on, it's so special. The people are so beautiful and wonderful and kind and thoughtful. Honestly, I've landed on my feet getting this site because they're just my kind of people. They, you know, we think alike, and part of that thinking is the sharing and just making sure each other are okay. So on my next door plot that way, she's got a masses of self-seeded cosmos. Last autumn I scratched a load of seed in, hoping to replicate the sort of self-seeding process. They haven't come up. However, I can't tip it up too much because it's got water in the bottom, can you see? This is a handful of her self-seeded ones she's just hoiked out because there's too many, they're in the way. So I can pop these in right near the main path at the end of my coco de pampol bed, and yay, have cosmos. And what I'm hoping is, because these are self-seeded one, that they like the soil here, they're acclimatised, and hopefully this autumn they'll drop some seed, and so hopefully from now on and forevermore I'll have cosmos at the end of my garden that self-seeds each year. I have to say, so many of the flowers, not just on my plot, but in all the gardens around here, the vast majority of the flowers are little self-seeded types. It's gorgeous. I love it. There's just a plethora all around the site. Right, that's enough waxing lyrical. It's time to don the sweaty old hat, the sweaty faded old hat, get out into the garden, and let's do some sowing. I'm going to show you two sowings today. I'm going to show you my coco de pampol sowing and my lentil sowing. I'm not going to show you everything else because the way I sow those two, the way I sow my cocoa is the way I sow all my beans. The way I'm going to sow the lentils is also the way I sow all my little salady type things and the fennel. So I'll show you each of those, and then you can apply those principles to the other sorts of things that I'm sowing today, and that hopefully you're on the verge of sowing too. Right, guard yourselves, it's hot out there. Come on, let's go and roast together. Okay, so with all my beans, my bush types, I try to grow them about 25 centimetres apart between plants and 25 to 30 between the rows. Sometimes it's more like 20. I am greedy. Now, in terms of bed prep, oy vey, so this got an initial forking just to break it up. I mean, I don't know if you can make out on my paths, it was like rock. So an initial forking just to break it up a bit. Then I've given it a scattering of the dried chicken manure pellets. Then I've come along and I've soaked it, given it a really, really good soaking, and then simply with the rake sort of gone along, bashed the worst of the lumps out, just to give myself something reasonably fine to sow into. That soaking, obviously it's helping me to break down these great lumps, but also it melts the chicken poo, so it's taken that in. So I could go along and make individual holes with my dibber. That's what I've done in the past, but actually it's quite time consuming. So instead I'm just going to make drills. One of these days I'll invest in a hoe, a draw hoe. Yeah, I'm just going to make drills instead. I want them to be about maybe 2-3 centimetres down. So yeah, this is much quicker and easier than doing all my individual dibbed holes. Gosh, it's warm. This weather is pretty unbelievable. Okay, then shaky, shaky, shaky. Now, I have got those that I started in the little cells in the pots. I think I did 60. Like I said, I've not ever sown direct before, so I've no idea what to expect in terms of germination. But wherever I've got a little gap, I can plug it with any that do come on in the cells. And then if loads come on in the cells and this bed's full, stick them in other gaps. There's always a gap somewhere. Okay, so easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And talking of lemon squeezy, I love when I get the first harvest of these. God, oh my gorgeous coco de pampa. I quite often like them just very lightly steamed, and then just a bit of oil and lemon juice as a dressing. Eat them by the spoonful. Gorgeosities. So even though where did I put my jar? Even though I soaked this bed prior to sowing, because I want to put them in moist soil, once I'm done with all the sowing, I will water again, because boy oh boy, it's dry quickly today. So let's just scrape the soil back over them. See what I mean? It's so much quicker this way than digging an individual hole for every seed. And this soil is now, you know, it's not a fine tilth, but it is much looser. So these little darlings stand half a chance. Okay, another drill. And then right on the top of this bed, just over here behind me, that's where I'm going to put the cosmos in a second. And I will also scratch in, clonk, I'll scratch in a few calendula too. You can never have too many calendula, can you? Oh, I've gone way off. That's why you've got your lines, Vivi. Ooh-wee. Hardly a breath of wind today. Not like over the weekend. It was, oh my goodness, such gales. Okay, well, I'll get on with this. Where are you all? Yes. I'm going to get 4 rows into this bed, ideally. And like I said, exactly the same treatment with the do rock and core and the chickpeas over in that bed, and then it'll be time to move on to the lentils and all the salady type things. So now they're all in, another good soaking. And in a minute I'll put the nets back on them. It's partly to deter foxes and cats from thinking this is a beautiful latrine that I've just made for them. But also it's to just help prevent, or at least slow down, the evaporation. Because at the moment we really are having these baking bright sunny days. I say that we're just getting some cloud cover, it's quite a relief. Yeah, we're getting these really baking hot days, And at the moment, material to mulch with, so normally I would use grass clippings a lot as a mulch. I put them on about sort of 3-4 inches deep. So this will be rows and rows and rows at the moment of just grass clippings. However, because we've had this drought for 3 months, the grass isn't growing, no clippings, no mulch. So, yeah, the nets will hopefully slow down some of the evaporation. And then what I'm hoping is with some of the compost I've bought, as they start to come up, I'll see how much compost I need to use elsewhere in the garden. But whatever compost is left over, I'm going to actually use it as a mulch, crazily enough. But yeah, I'll pop it on the top. You know, the worms will start to take it down anyway. And then come the autumn when the plants come out, I might tickle it in a bit, might just get it covered. But yeah, it's certainly, my goodness, it is being a tricky year, isn't it? I think, you know, to start a year off with non-stop rain and then plunge straight into summer and drought, no compost, yeah, we are definitely having our challenges this year. But you know what, you know, in the garden we have these challenges every year there's a challenge of some sort, and every year we find a way to get through it all. Oh. And now for some of my favourite type of gardening, sitting on my backside gardening. Oh wow, it's so hot today. I know I've said it, I keep saying it, but it's just shocking. It's quite humid today too, so that makes things all the more sweaty. Okay, lentils. So just going to quickly have a look for any little weeds. Not too many. It's not too bad. I think it shows how dry it's been. So this bed, if you remember back in, I think it was about sometime in February, beginning of March, I wanted to, this was supposed to be all broad beans, the mice at first sowing, the mice at the second sowing, they at half of the third sowing. So I decided to change my original plan and bring the peas into this bed. Before I could put them in, I did need to bash this bed up a bit. So I'm saying this by way of explaining about bed preparation, what's gone on here. Because over the winter, despite the nets being on the broad beans, well, the broad beans that weren't, oh, that rain. I mean, literally November, December, January, February, just pelting rain. It really compacted the soil. And of course, because I didn't have plants, because they weren't growing, because they'd been eaten, there wasn't that sort of canopy of all the foliage to break the impact of the rain. So yeah, it did need forking over. And at the same time of doing that, I put some chicken poo down. That was quite a while ago. Like I say, beginning March, about 2 months ago. Now, in terms of sort of how much fertilisation or whatever the lentils need, I'm not sure. It's not something you see a lot of in terms of, if you go online to have a look to get information, there's not a huge amount out there. So all I did last year when I was growing them was think in terms of, say, the nitrogen, because I know that, my beans like quite a high nitrogen feed. The bottom line is, the only feed I use, as I was mentioning in a previous video, is my urine. So I just tried about once a week or so to give them a bit of a watering with my urine. Anyway, got a nice harvest, seemed to work. Can't get the lid off the jar. In terms of buying seed, where did I get my seed? I got it from, it wasn't a seed supplier, a normal sort of seed supplier. It was a farm in Kent. I think it was in Kent, or was it Norfolk? Doesn't matter. Anyway, you could try using the lentils you get in the supermarket. There we go. So literally what I'm going to do, this is nice, sort of fairly loose, scarified soil. It's nice and moist. I'm literally just going to sprinkle them all over. This is the way I did them last year. I had no idea what to expect, but it worked perfectly well. So, yeah, just sprinkle them on. Sprinkle, sprinkle, chucking loads. And then when I harvested them, I literally just pulled them out by the handful and then spent a long time threshing. I've still got some that still need threshing and then winnowing. Okay, so they're on. Just give them a little bit more, tiny bit more of a scratch in. I do love this little tool, it's really handy. Oh, I didn't do my tool video, did I? I promised a tool video. I think, yeah, I did promise to do a tool video. Oh, sorry about that. It's just, you know, the way the garden was, or has been this year. Let me get everything planted and sown, calm down about the garden a bit, and then I'll do a little tool video. Okay, so then all I'm going to do now is just the merest sprinkle of compost over the top. Hopla. Yeah, it's just a little light covering. Then I'll give it all another wetting. I can't believe at the end of May and we're already into this sort of daily watering regime. There are people who live closer to the gardens than I do who are watering twice a day. That's how dry it is. I've been trying to water in the evening so that, well, the plants have got a chance of getting some of that moisture before it evaporates. But obviously, you know, sometimes if the only time you can come to the garden is 12 noon to do your watering, it's better than nothing, isn't it? But even with nighttime watering, there have been a couple of times when I've finished watering at say 8 in the evening, and then I'm back at the plot the next day at 8 in the morning. It's dry already. And I think that's what has troubled the carrots and parsnips, is I think they're particularly vulnerable to this. If they start to come up, if they germinate, even if they're dry for 12 hours, that can just sort of kill them in their tracks. So yeah, I think I am going to have to do another sowing of both of them and just work a bit harder at keeping it all moist. I don't really want to do 2 visits a day because it is taking me quite a long time to walk here and walk home each time these days. So, you know, it's best part of 45 minutes, the round trip these days. So if I was doing that twice a day, you know, an hour and a half out of my day, and that's just to get here. That's quite a chunk of time, isn't it, to lose to coming just to water. But on the other hand, it's quite a lot of harvest to lose if I don't. Good, that's done, another little job done. It does feel amazing to finally be sowing seeds. Thank heavens. Thank goodness for hard work and for a load of compost. Right, that's bed number 1 done. Let's start on bed number 2. Even though it looks a bit overcast at the moment, we are getting some clouds. The temperature is climbing and climbing. It's just gone 2:30, so we're now heading into the hottest part of the day. So I'm just going to begin to finish up for my morning session, and rather like I was saying earlier about the time to make the trips backwards and forwards, I'm going to go home, but I am going to come back this evening because everything that I watered this morning, sort of 5 hours or so ago, it's bone dry again. Right, so to finish off my little session today, this little patch of dirt, it's on the end of the bed that's got the coco de pampol in. I'm now sitting on our central path. This is the path that everyone uses to come up and down and access their plots. I've always liked to have flowers on the end here. I enjoy them, people walking past enjoy them, the bees enjoy them. What's not to enjoy? So, a little handful of calendula, and then where you're standing, sitting, what are you doing? You're half crouching. The 3 beds that are left to get done in this top number 1 bed, they are going to be hopefully the vegetable cathedrals this year. And on each end of those 3 beds, I'm also going to do some more calendula. So all I'm doing is, this ground I made damp earlier on to sow the coco de pampol. Needless to say, it got pretty dry, so it got another watering one after I'd sowed the coco de pampol. So it's nice and moist. I've just given it a bit of a scratching over with my faithful scratcher. Useful for actually that's really good. Useful for backs too. Let's be a bit more generous than that. So I'm just literally sprinkling them, and then I just rake the soil over with my little back scratcher again. The idea now is that hopefully this end where I've got the gorgeous Love in a Mist and Nigella, all the poached eggplants, the Limnanthes douglasii, whatever they're called, and the poached eggs, they've gone over. Oh, by the way, do you remember that Helenium division last summer from my mum's? No sign of it. I think what I need to do is I need to pull out some of the forget-me-nots and the poached eggs that have gone over and have a look, because after I put it in, it did in the autumn, it was showing shoots of new growth. Anyway, for now it's disappeared. So, yes, all of this, it's all self-seeded, the bees love it, it's not taking up too much in terms of space of vegetable growing, so yes, of course I love it. Now, this top end of the garden, I've always had cosmos as well. Last autumn, I got a packet, scratched it in, trying to replicate what would happen in nature with self-seeding. Not a single one's come up, and I don't know whether it's because maybe the poached eggs have been too aggressive, too successful, but I have these lovely little self-seeded ones from my neighbour. So I don't need them all here, however, I'm going to put them all in. I'm just going to whack the whole lot in. I'm going to have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 12 of them. Because, surely then, amongst the 12, I'll get a couple. Trying to just randomise it a little bit. Please grow. But I'm hoping that, like I said, was I saying it in the shed, that because these are self-seeded anyway, they should be pretty robust. Time will tell. I don't know how much they like being transplanted, so I will keep an eye on them in terms of, I just make sure I keep them well watered in these first few days. Some of them really are little tiddlers, but I'm thinking, hit concrete. I'm thinking that at least one of them ought to come good. And let's face it, in this space, I only really need one to work, because they'll easily get to sort of 1.5 foot, 2 feet wide, 3, 4 feet high, really blousy and big. Oh, I'm delighted. I'm really, really pleased about that. In fact, one of my other neighbours commented to say that they'd looked and seen that there's no cosmos coming up. What on earth's going on? I always have cosmos. So yeah. Done. It really is stinking hot today. I think it's partly because there's hardly a breath of air, breath of wind, occasional little, just beautiful, like that. Gorgeous. It's humid, and I've been out here on hot sunny days too much this last sort of week or so. So for now, I'm going to wend my way home, have some lunch, do some indoor stuff until about 6 o'clock this evening, come back and start watering all over again. Oh, loving it. What a relief today is to finally do some sowing. Maybe it doesn't show on my face too much at the moment just because I'm droopy, I'm wilting from the heat, but it has made me so happy today, so happy. There's always that thing when we sow, we are sowing all that hope and optimism, but then as we sow we think, oh, what if none of them come up? Well, you know what? I won't know unless I actually get them in, will I? So getting them in, that's half the battle, isn't it? Whew, right, well, yes. Oh, don't want that grass in there. On that note, I'm going to bid you all a very, very fond farewell. I hope you're managing your gardens okay in whatever weather you've got. Keep at it. Next time you see me, I might be planting plants and building structures. See you then. Bye for now.